My name is Veronika Kovacsova, and I'm originally from Slovakia. I'm studying urban design in Amsterdam, but I live in Vienna. And this is what I'm going to show you is basically my work in progress of my graduation project. I also have a background in social sciences. I studied urban sociology in Amsterdam, and actually, so what Pavel mentioned after my studies, when I finished, I was like, well, what am I gonna do? You know, like I don't want to do a PhD, and what else is there for me? So then, actually, from this research and this research part, I actually moved to the wanted to move to the more practical part. Yes, so this is urban design. So this is basically a project that I've been working on. The topic, the focus of my project is a bit different than what we have been talking about here. It has to do about urban landscapes, of course, but I mean, I'm studying urban design, but it's a little bit from a different point of view. So my presentation will start very broad, and then I will go more concrete. The starting points of every project that probably every urban designer or whatever is doing is, there's more and more people on this planet. There's more and more urban people on this planet. So there's more of us in cities. What are we going to do, And then, the more of us are living in the cities, the more space you take, and the more, not only space, but by building things, you're basically taking away the natural layer of the city, what is there under it, and you are affecting the ecological processes of the city. So this is my thesis, actually, or my graduation work. So people are talking about climate change, like, oh my God, like, yes, the weather is changing and it's so hot, and yes, because the climate is changing. Yes, it's true, it is changing. It has been always very different. I mean, that's why, for example, the dinosaurs are extinct because of the change of the weather. So this is happening. But what is? So we are actually in the age of Anthropocene. So it's the age of the people or the human being, era of the human being. So we are basically affecting partly as well our environment, and this is what really intrigues me. So this is basically like the planet has seen these changes, but we haven't. So we have to adapt to this. And there is actually, I want to invite you, all of you, it's a little commercial break here. There will be the International Architecture Biennale in Rotterdam, and actually the topic of 2014 of next year is urban by nature. So it's a lot of, combined how to find this balance between nature and the urban environment. So the case study of my location, since I'm from Slovakia and I'm attached to this country, is Bratislava. Why? Because every time I went to Bratislava in the summer, I felt they're bloody hot and super uncomfortable. So I thought, how could you make actually the city comfortable during the hot summer months? So this is the location. It's a mid-sized capital. Population is stable, and actually in the future, it's prognosed that it will decrease a little bit, not too much. This is just a cut. It's not the whole city, but it's almost the whole city, cut of the city. So on the north part, you have the old town. On the south part, you have Petržalka. Those are actually also both case studies of my project, and I will tell you soon why. So here, just a little summary, about this was my starting point, that the uncomfortableness, the uncomfort of being in the summer in the city. Bratislava doesn't have a central park. There's very little public spaces where you can feel comfortable. City is building it up. It's, I think, probably happening everywhere. The city is not thinking about the comfort and the health of the city. The city administration. Reduction of green open spaces. What is happening in Bratislava is that, as in most of the cities, the population is aging. The most rapid changes are happening actually in the old town and in Petržalka. And Petržalka is a new, or well, new. It was built newly built in the 70s. It was a small village before. So which means in the 70s, young families moved in, and now they're aging. So in the future, now soon we will have a problem that all these people who live in Petržalka, they will soon be, pensionists. So we have a problem there, because also concerning public spaces. Then we have a problem of cities still building new buildings, but for whom? The population is not growing. And actually, Bratislava has about 14% of all office space is empty, is vacant. So what can you do actually? It could be like 6.5 this beautiful park, for example, like open space. So the challenges for my thesis were, accumulation of heat, creation of urban heat islands. Since we are building up asphalting everything, there is no space for ecological processes to enter in the city, so infiltration. And the challenge is actually the built environment. So the challenge is not to build a new ecological neighborhood and how can we basically build a new neighborhood, but how do you actually transform and change the existing into a better one, better and nicer. So we have the city. This is basically the kind of the vision why I chose the Old Town and Petržalka as my case study location. So it's the most densest built. They have both same densities, like inhabitant densities, and both of them in the future will challenge the oldest population, like elderly people. And these are the most vulnerable people, for example, when it comes to urban heat islands. So probably, I don't know, maybe, you have been to Bratislava or you have an image of what is the Old Town and what is Petržalka. Old Town is super lively, but then very little green. Petržalka, on the other hand, is super green, but has absolutely almost no life on the, eye level, on the ground floor. Then this is basically a comparison of, how much built space you have and how much open space you have. How much built space you have in Petržalka and in Old Town. And functions, for example, in the Old Town, on the left-hand side, there's like every 5 to 10 meters on the main street some function, so plinth life. And in Petržalka, it's about every 70 meters, you have to find a little shop or something. This is, on the other hand, the amount of open, permeable space in the city. So where, when it rains, it pretty much everything goes down the drain in the Old Town and ends up in Danube. And in Petržalka, what is nice, that there's a lot of open space, but still the problem there is that, for example, there's not so much trees, actually. If I compare these areas, even though it's not very visible, probably it's a mistake of the drawing, but there's more trees on this plot in Old Town than in Petržalka, and this is a problem because the water is not kept in the ground. So even though this image looks beautiful and green during the summer, it's very, very dry. Actually, it's dead grass, basically. This is a comparison of what do people or inhabitants of the Old Town in Petržalka have like public space and in European average, and what do people in Petržalka have. So this is the quantity, which has nothing to do with quality. I will tell you later. So how can these Old Town basically help each other? They are similar, but they are very opposite at the same time also. So this was basically my question. So how can we provide, still a healthy, I mean by, for example, air and noise and things like that, environment and comfortable environment in people for cities. So I think there needs to be a new way of thinking, so an urban area is not, or in my understanding, or what urbanity is not the built mass. So I am urban because I live in a densely built city, but I live in a city because I am connected, or the people are active, and I'm connected. I have interaction with the people, and I actually like to live there because it's good. There's other qualities in like public spaces and green spaces in the city. So I call this urban permeability, as you already saw in the title. So urban permeability. So permeability, like that when the rain falls, then it can go through the ground. And urban so it is on the vertical level and the horizontal level. So the street life. So then I'm still basically finding things out, you know, like how, not really finding, but actually concluding in my thesis, you know, so how can you actually from really hard scapes make a bit softer scape. And actually, yeah, it has to do a lot with people. So, for example, if you have in Petržalka a green open space, which has a problem because nobody goes there, you know, what can you do there? If you have a fountain in the city which is not working, and the city says we don't have money, what can you do? You know. So I propose that you should all work with resources what we have, and resources are as well human resources. So it's not only knowledge, what we were talking about, that we are experts in something, but we all have hands. And we all have ideas, or you know, some kind of, at least we all know what we like, so let's do it, you know. Yeah, and this is also a general thing. I think there is a shift in the society. So I think people are more active. I mean, this is my experience from. I live in Vienna, but I'm a lot in Bratislava. So in Bratislava, there's a lot of changes because the city, so the government, they don't do anything, and they have no idea how things are working and how actually people want to live. And there is really a lot of civic activism in Bratislava. So there's like these kind of groups are changing or forming up, and they're really taking things into their own hands. So this is basically what I really believe in. Resourceful city is something that really interests me because, like, I think, yeah, if you combine resources and responsibility, you have the resilience. You have a resilient city. So in the old town where you have this unfunctional fountain, the city says we don't have money. But actually, I talked with the people, with the city administration. What is the problem? The problem is really simple. Actually, it only needs a ceiling. You know, like it's leaking. So just the cover of the fountain needs to be changed. I was like, okay, how much does it cost? They said, well, 500,000 euros. I was like, so much, you know, like, I don't believe that, like, you know, if I find people, can we repair it, you know? I asked the city, and they were like, yeah, of course. Or if I have 10,000 euros and I find somebody, you know, like, yeah, of course, no problem. So it's really, the city is like, okay, do it, just whatever, just make it nice. So this is, for example, how the landscape of this square changed. It's basically, it was almost 100%, you know, open. It used to be a vineyard, and now, especially during the communist times, there came this really big parking place. You can see here, and they continually change. So, you know, like, this is also interesting to see how actually our public space is changed through basically the city. That the city was growing, because this was first the periphery of the city, and then it became the city. Problem in Petržalka is that, in my opinion, it's one of the most, and in Bratislava and also in Prague, I see this. It's the most undemocratic place to be, because you, as a citizen, as a pedestrian, you have absolutely no space there. It's everywhere is cars, and this is a big problem. So all the sidewalks and even the green areas are filled with cars. Which is very interesting, but this is really odd. This started in the 90s. I was going around Petržalka and interviewing people, you know, who were opening up the Plinths. I was like, yeah, this is great. And I had a look, and, you know, they were like mostly like hairdressers and cosmeticians and little shops, neighborhood shops. And this basically they started to privatize. These were before like bicycle storages and like laundries, you know, where people were doing laundries together, which is also very nice because it's something common, you know, you don't have a washing machine, not everyone has a washing machine, but you go down. But now, because after the 1989, these places were becoming, like, you know, you could buy a part of it and you could transform it into your own business. But still, there's not many places. I think there should be much more places like this. And people are appropriating on a very little scale, but they're appropriating a public space, so they are making their own gardens. This is not the same building, but it's the same color, but yeah, the colors, yeah, that's a different topic of these neighborhoods. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. So this public space is not used by people, it's actually used only by, well, their pets, you know, to take a pee or something like that. So the quantity is big, but how is it used? The quality of the public space is the issue. And how can you do it? Well, I propose public-private partnership. So what do I propose is, how can we change it? Okay, that was my 15 minutes, so I will try to round it up.
5 more minutes.
Okay. I'm sorry if I talk too fast, but we can talk about it later if you're interested. So how can you basically utilize these vast green areas by letting people adopting? So how can you do that? How can you, why would people do that? This is just a very, very rough visualization, how could it change? Oh my God, how beautiful it is with some trees and, plants and everything. I missed one drawing, I think. Here, this one. So this is an interesting one because this, why does it jump? So these, all the black ones, are basically the paths that people take, I don't know, in English I found it like desired path. I don't know, how is it called if it's a good word, maybe somebody is native English here, if it's desired path, is it? Is somebody?
It's a very good word.
Okay, so that's what people basically take. Yeah, so I say, and also actually the soil, this area was before an agricultural area, so soil is very rich there, so, these are the resources what we have, so, and this is that people really don't think about, that we have quality, and basically my thinking is based on resources and access rather than scarcity, so what do we have, what can we do, And so there could be plot divisions, there could be a competition for people, the city says for €1 a year I give you a part of the land, 80 to 500 square meters, and give me a proposal, to do something with it. And I think there would be young people, not from Petržalka, most maybe, but also from all other parts of the city, come with a proposal, anything to do. And basically my proposals is to bring more trees, for example, because it brings quality as a city, as a place to be under the shade, but also for the soil and especially food. For example, you could have fruit orchards there. People could make their own jams, and I think actually nature has a potential to become a social catalyst. Actually, in this case. So, and also partnership is, I think, very important. So you were talking about this transdisciplinary and interdisciplinary, but it's also indeed having these different views and knowledge and not only that, but also what is my stake, what is my interest, and how do we make both happy. And this is very important for me. So there is resources in the city which for example, roofs, roofs are huge potential in the city, and they're not used, and I think it's a great resource in the city, and all these green areas which are not used, or then build up, and then in the end I have a nice quote from Jane Jacobs, which I only found out, or not found out, but I read it again. After reading the book, so I believe that cities must be created by everyone. Not must is a strong word, but they have a potential to become really nice cities when they are created together. So it's my kind of horizontal, ideal of a society. And then I'm working in progress, so you can have a look at my blog I'm posting a lot of things about my work. So yeah, thank you.
You are from Slovakia. You studied in Holland, and you're currently studying in Vienna.
No, I work in Vienna.
Working in Vienna. Okay, so how have these international experiences influenced the way you think?
I'm mostly influenced, I think, by the Dutch, system, because I lived there for 9 years, and but I don't know. I really didn't think about it. How did it influence my work? I don't know. I know I have I have always been very, my study trajectories, I have a bachelor in journalism, and I have a master in social sciences, urban sociology, and now I'm finishing my other master in urban design. So all these things, like from beginning, from journalism, like it always created some kind of interest path. I always had questions, and I always wanted to find out how and why. And so that's one thing. And in Holland, in the Netherlands, for example, because I could study all these three different things, like which would be impossible to study like in Slovakia, because you have to have a bachelor in architecture. You can't just study, this. So this openness, I think, and this chance, like, okay, if you're not good enough, I just generalize, but if you don't fit or if you don't like it, then you just leave, like it's your choice. And if I adapted, I had to really work very hard. Also in social sciences, I'd never read Bourdieu before, and never read Giddens before. So all these evenings I had to like read everything. Oh shit, like what are they talking about, So this is something that in the Netherlands it's a very open educational structure. So you can, if you are really passionate about something, you can.
And it goes to this issue of being able to work in transdisciplinary circumstances. And I think that kind of elasticity is really important, that you gain from having the opportunity to study in multiple places. It's not intended to be a negative comment about one and a positive comment about the other, but I do think that the elasticity in the way you learn and the way you're able to pursue your interests is really important, rather than being always confined to the domain of a particular discipline as it's been preconceived.
This thing about being an expert in something, I'm a non-expert, in many things, but one thing that puts the glue together is the openness and the interest in the other, so I think you have to be by nature open to be able to work transdisciplinary, you have to be interested constantly and ask questions about your own field as well, be critical. But then, not because that leads to only discussions and thinking and writing papers, but try it, apply it, how does it work? Let's fight. Yes, fight is great, because it comes to the, next step.
I would like to ask if you have some frameworks of these plots. Do you think about some special arrangement of these plots? Because we have in Poland, for example, the problem of the chaos in spatial planning, and if everybody would do it on their own, it would be huge chaos.
Mm-hmm. The plot division I just proposed it's something because I of course propose in my project that that the neighbors, so the people that live in these flats, that they would be involved. But also it's a bit crazy because, for example, I found out that in one of those big buildings, it's 12 floors high and 200 meters long. In one of those buildings are 504 apartments, which means, about 2,000 people live in one building, which is a village, which is ridiculous, it's a big amount of people. And this is a challenge. I think it's definitely a challenge to, how do you actually just work with one building, how do you, because people don't know each other, actually. I don't live myself in such a neighborhood, but I go there often, I have friends there. And I know my neighbors, and this is always my first question. If you live somewhere, it's not like how is your apartment, but how are your neighbors? Because this is for me much more important than the apartment. And they always say, I don't know. I saw him once, and I'm not really sure who are the others, and so this is one challenge definitely, to work in such neighborhoods where you have a big mass of people in one. It's perfect. Yes, you are all together. Yes, so I have access to you, but there's a lot of anonymity and uninterest.
Did you do the survey how happy are people with their surrounding in Petržalka? Because what I was present, I was at a discussion in Prague 11, Nizhny Město, where I was at the panel, And we were talking with people, and we were just attacked because people told us, don't change anything. We love our open green areas and our trees, and we just don't change it because it's great the way it is.
If you say somebody's from Petržalka, you're proud of it somehow. You don't really, but on the other hand, you have absolutely no connection to it. You don't spend time there. You know, you go to the old town. But this one thing is as well is they love what do you love about it? They love the green areas. They love it. You know, please don't take it away from us. You know. So for example, they had a plan. The city had a plan to build maybe you have probably heard about it, a 4-lane highway through it. And because it was a plan from the 80s, and we still didn't do it, so we have to do it now, you know, 30 years later. But the people mobilized themselves, and they said, no way. So they collected 10,000 written signatures, gave it to the city, and I said, it's okay, so no.
Well, I understand
No highway. I'm proposing a strategy, let's say, how you can make this space, two things. Make it socially, a social catalyst, so where people meet, because there's no places in Petržalka, public spaces where people do things together, one thing. Second thing, to improve the ecological layer of the area, because it's just dry land. So this is a strategy. How do you actually make a solution with two problems, let's say, you know?
How far are you from realization of your ideas, or it's just in your mind?
It's just a project for my school, you know. So I have been actually not in Petržalka. Petržalka is, I think, very exciting. I believe that it's my vision, or not my vision, but you know, I really believe that socialist like neighborhoods will be super hot, like in a cup. You know, it will be like retro. It will be like old. You know, we need 10 more years, and it will be like a cool place to live. And I think it still needs to like do, but still do a lot. You know, concerning the public space, that it becomes a really good quality public space. But I've been working a lot in the old town, we were working, me and my friends were established the first community garden in the center, and that was also a challenge to people don't do anything in the center, you know, they just like walk around, and then suddenly there's these crazy people who 20 years this plot was empty, and they were starting things there, but people are interested. If activities are happening, people come. I think, you know, if there is something like you mentioned, if there's a reason to go there, then you will attract them to go there. And I believe you have to do mainstream things, like people associate with it, you know, like it's about food. People need food, so they like to do gardening. People like green, you know. These are very banal things, but very mainstream things. And I think we have to catch people by these things, what they anyway do or like, you know.